rolling with a different setup today. Instead of doing this podcast from my computer and recording into Pro Tools, I'm actually recording on a handheld digital recorder, the Zoom H6 recorder to be exact. And that's exactly what this episode is about. It's about podcasting with the Zoom H6, which is an excellent digital recorder for podcasting. What up, guys, and welcome to Clipped, a show designed to help you become a better, more efficient podcaster. My name is Eric. I'm your host and founder of the Podcast Haven. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I'm using the Zoom H6 with my Shure SM58 mic, and I think it sounds pretty good. What do you guys think? The reason I'm doing this is so that you can hear how it sounds. You can get a feel for what the Zoom H6 will sound like. You might have a different microphone, but if you have a dynamic microphone, like we talked about in previous episodes, it's going to pair very nicely with the Zoom H6. And the reason why you might want to use the Zoom H6 or just a digital recorder in general is maybe you're a podcaster that's intimidated by recording via the computer and you like to be more hands-on. If so, then the Zoom H6 could be a great choice for you. Honestly, I typically record into the computer, but there really is something about like manually pushing the buttons and being able to dial in your settings with your hands. I think there's an element of that that's lost today in podcasting and in just digital audio in general. It just feels good. It feels like you're more connected to what you're doing. Another reason to use a handheld digital recorder like the Zoom H6 is it's great on the go for like a mobile setup. You can toss this thing in a backpack with your microphones and cables, and you've got a fully functional podcast studio in your backpack. It's compact, it's lightweight, and it's great to travel with. Maybe you record with several friends or colleagues at the office or at someone's house, and you're the person that typically engineers the show. This is a great solution, super easy to use, small, sounds great, and has excellent battery life. Honestly, there's top-rated shows on the Apple Podcast charts right now that are being recorded with a Zoom H6. Okay, so let's get a little bit more into the meat of what the Zoom H6 does and in what situations you would want to use it, the type of podcaster that the Zoom H6 is a good choice for. The Zoom H6 is a portable digital recorder, and it's capable of recording high-fidelity audio. That's key. You're going to want something, whatever route you choose to go in your podcasting journey, recording high-fidelity audio is key, and this is one way to achieve that. It's got 4 XLR inputs and has an additional stereo microphone that's detachable that mounts onto the top of the unit. The main reason that I love this thing is because of the 4 XLR inputs. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Unless you know you're always going to be on the microphone solo, I think if you're going to have 2 people or more, it's good to buy a device that has more inputs than you'll need. Let's say it's typically you and somebody else. You do an interview or a hangout. You never know. Maybe once in a while you have a third person on the show, so there's 3 of you. I think it's always good to scale up. In the event that something happens or that maybe your show's going to grow or maybe one of the inputs is not going to work or it's hissy or you hear some like buzzing or noise, if you scale up and you buy the Zoom H6 or any type of handheld recorder or audio interface for that matter that has more inputs than you'll need, I think that's going to be key and will probably get you out of a bind a couple times throughout your podcasting journey. Budget comes into play, and digital handheld recorders with less inputs are going to cost less, but it's something to think about. And in my opinion, it's always good to scale up. Who is the Zoom H6 for? Well, definitely for interviews. Great option for interviewing, especially because it's compact. Solo casts, if you're going to be on the microphone solo, it's going to have more than what you would need. Roundtable discussions, if you're hanging out with several people or you're doing a panel, great option for that as well. Who it's not good for is people that typically record remotely. And there is one caveat to this. Although it is a digital recorder, It also doubles as an audio interface, and in which case, if you do record remotely, you could use it as an interface to connect to your computer and then record with whatever remote podcast recording platform that you use. I'm going to get into that in a second, talk about how it doubles as a digital recorder and an audio interface. But first, I want to talk about storage. When using the Zoom H6, you're going to record your files internally onto an SD card. And when you purchase it, it actually comes with a 2 gigabyte SD card. That's not enough. You're going to need more. In my opinion, I think you should get a 16 gigabyte card or a 32 gigabyte card. That way, you're not always worried about running out of space and having to offload the files onto your computer. With more gigs of storage, you're going to be able to record several dozen podcasts probably before you have to worry about dumping the card. If you're not familiar with what an SD card is, it's essentially like a little hard drive. It's a small card. You insert it into the side of the H6. All your recordings will end up on that. And then to access those recordings, you would eject the card, upload the card to your computer. And most computers these days do have SD card slots. If they don't, you're going to have to get what's called a card reader. And a card reader is like a little adapter that connects to your computer via USB with little slots for SD cards. And you would insert the SD card into the card reader, and then the card reader connects via USB. And then you can drag and drop the files from your SD card onto your computer or onto an external hard drive or wherever you like to keep stuff. I definitely recommend wherever these files ultimately end up, it's good to have a backup. So if you're going to offload them to the computer, I would then back them up on an external hard drive. You always want to back up your recordings. You never know what's going to happen. You might need to reference recordings in the past or pull clips from past recordings, or who knows, maybe your show gets bought and the network is going to have to access the back catalog. Whatever it is, it's always good to have a backup. You don't want to lose anything. Maybe you record months ahead. You're going to want to know that those files that you recorded several months ago are safely stored 2 times over, maybe 3. If you're crazy like me, probably 3. There's also cloud storage. You could offload from the SD card onto your computer and then upload to like Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever cloud storage platform that you're most comfortable with. For using the Zoom H6 as an audio interface, you're going to connect your recorder to your computer via USB. Depending on how new your computer is, it might automatically pick up the H6 as the computer's default input and output device. If not, you're going to have to go into your settings and select the H6 as your input and output, and then you can plug in 1 to 4 mics and multi-track record into your digital audio workstation on your computer. All right, I'm going to try to rip through more of the features of the Zoom H6. Like I initially said, it does have 4 microphone inputs. These are also TRS combo jacks, which means you can connect a 1/4-inch cable. So if you play electric guitar or if you have keyboards and you want to compose some music for your show, you can record those instruments or any instrument with a 1/4-inch jack into the Zoom H6. These 4 inputs have 55 decibels of gain, which is more than enough to power the quietest dynamic microphones. This is a Shure SM58. It is a dynamic microphone, and the gain right now is on about 6.5 or maybe a little closer to 7, and I'm getting a healthy signal on the recorder coming in and peaking around like -12, -10. The H6 has a stereo microphone that's a capsule that attaches to the top of the unit. Probably not going to use this for podcasting, but it is great for capturing sound effects. And so maybe you have more of an artistic podcast and you want to record things like footsteps or doors creaking or running water or anything that'll really help you paint like a soundscape and immerse the listener in the show. Great for that. Probably not ideal for podcasting. If you're doing an interview show and you stick it right up into somebody's face, you will get a good sound. There might be a little imbalance of right and left because it is a stereo microphone. Next, it does have phantom power, so you can connect condenser microphones to the Zoom H6. But if you've been listening to this show, I don't recommend using condenser microphones for podcasting. For other uses, maybe like recording music or maybe for recording soundscapes, if you have an additional condenser mic that you want to plug in for that, it will do a great job at capturing sound with the phantom power. It's got a really cool LCD display, and the display on the H6 is bright. It's going to show you all your tracks. So there's 4 tracks and then 1 stereo track. And this is where you're going to see your levels. You're going to see how loud your signal is, where you're peaking, if you're clipping, if you're not loud enough. It does have the decibels, which on the device go from -32 up until 0. And so you can see right in there and get that healthy signal that you want. I recommend trying to stay mostly in the green and maybe peak around -12 or 10. If you're going into the red, you've definitely gone too far. If you're going a little bit into the yellow, that's totally fine. For storage, it does take SD cards up to 128 gigabytes. If you want to buy a card that big, that's great. That's tons of storage for podcasting. You probably don't need a card that big. I would recommend at least 16 to 32 gigabytes. And with 16 to 32 gigabytes, you're going to be able to record dozens of podcasts before having to wipe the card clean. As far as recording format, it does record WAV and MP3 files. Although the final product of your podcast is going to be an MP3, I don't recommend recording as an MP3. MP3 files compress the sound, and if you record on the way into the Zoom H6, and then when you edit and mix your show and bounce it as an MP3, you're compressing the audio twice. I recommend recording WAV files. That way you're getting that full fidelity sound going in, and then just compressing once when you mix down. As far as battery life, the H6 has over 20 hours of operation with 4 AA alkaline batteries. I use rechargeable batteries. You can use brand new batteries every time. But honestly, the best way to power it is to take the USB input on the H6 and plug it into like the brick charger that comes like with an iPhone, or really any USB compatible device that you can plug into a wall. That way you don't have to worry about battery power. And as long as you're plugged into the wall, you're going to have endless power, unless the power goes out. As far as outputs, the Zoom H6 has 2 outputs. It has a 3.5 millimeter output, which is essentially your headphone output. And it has a line out. And what the line out is used for, well, it could be used for many things, but one cool thing that you can do with the line out is plug it into your camera. So if you are filming the podcast as well, you can take the audio straight from the Zoom H6 into your camera, and then you're going to have really good audio for your video podcast. Another cool feature is that you can mount the H6 onto like a mic stand or like a tabletop tripod stand. That way, you're going to have it up off the table, and that might help with vibrations. That's it for me today, guys. Thanks for rocking with me. If you want to know more about the Zoom H6 or just have any podcasting questions in general, please reach out to info@thepodcasthaven.com. And I'd love to connect with you and answer any podcasting questions that you have. Check out the website, thepodcasthaven.com. We're a full-service podcast production company, and we produce shows for businesses, brands, and influencers. So if you're someone who's looking to have a full-service solution where we handle your recording, your editing, your interview questions, booking guests, etc., we have a team in place that does that. And you can see some of our work on the website. Again, that's thepodcasthaven.com. Also, check out the blog, thepodcasthaven.com/blog. Constantly writing articles about equipment, different podcasting tips and insights, and what's going on in the industry right now. A lot of good stuff on there. And lastly, we have an ebook on Amazon. It's called The 4 Pillars of Podcasting, and it's great for beginners. It'll help you take your podcast from idea through launch.